Imagine this. You're walking home from school, tired but happy because you had a good day. Maybe you're thinking about your favorite video game, your family, or your dreams for the future. Now imagine that all those thoughts are suddenly shattered in one terrifying moment. This is exactly what happened to Jamal, a black teenager from a quiet neighborhood. But what happened to him wasn't just about one bad day. It was a moment that changed everything. Jamal was an ordinary kid, in many ways. He loved basketball, music, and hanging out with his friends. He was the kind of kid who always tried to do the right thing and treated others with respect. His neighborhood wasn't perfect. Like many places, it had its problems. But Jamal believed in hope and hard work. He dreamed of going to college and becoming someone who could make a difference. One afternoon, as Jamal walked home from the local library, he was feeling good. He had just finished a big project for school, and he was proud of himself. The sun was shining, the birds were chirping, and the streets were busy with people going about their day. But something about this ordinary walk would soon turn into a moment Jamal would never forget. As Jamal passed through a popular part of town, a group of white teenagers noticed him. They were hanging out on the corner, laughing and joking loudly. At first, Jamal didn't pay them much attention, but then he heard one of them shout something. It was a mean joke, a racist insult that immediately made Jamal's stomach drop. "Hey, look at this kid! Think he belongs here?" one of them sneered, pointing at Jamal with a cruel smile. Jamal's heart started racing. He kept walking, hoping to avoid trouble, but the group didn't let him pass so easily. They started following him, getting louder and more aggressive. The laughter turned into taunts, and the taunts turned into threats. Jamal felt like all eyes were on him, but nobody was stepping in to help. "Where you think you're going, huh?" another one called out, stepping in front of Jamal. His friends laughed harder. Jamal tried to stay calm. "Please, just leave me alone," he said, his voice shaking but polite. But the group didn't listen. Instead, they closed in, blocking the sidewalk and pushing Jamal slightly. The feeling of being trapped and powerless took over. Jamal looked around desperately, hoping someone would notice, someone would stop this. But the busy street was full of people who seemed too afraid or too distracted to get involved. Jamal's mind raced. Why were they doing this? Why was he the target? He had never done anything to them. The only difference was the color of his skin. It was a painful reminder of a harsh reality. Racism still existed, and sometimes it came in the form of mockery and violence. One of the teenagers grabbed Jamal's backpack roughly. "Let's see what you've got in here, loser," he said, pulling at the strap. Jamal tried to hold on, but the boy was stronger. Suddenly, his backpack was ripped from his shoulder and dragged away. Jamal's phone slipped out and hit the ground with a loud thud. "Hey, give that back!" Jamal shouted, panic rising in his voice. The group laughed again, mocking him as they passed the backpack around like a prize. Jamal felt a mix of anger and helplessness. He wanted to fight back, but he was outnumbered and scared. The fear wasn't just about losing his belongings. It was about the message behind their actions. It was about being made to feel less than human. Then, something inside Jamal changed. Even though his body was frozen with fear, his mind screamed for him to act. He couldn't let this moment define him. He refused to be broken by their cruelty. Just as the thieves started running down a narrow alley, Jamal gathered all his courage and sprinted after them, shouting for help. His voice echoed down the street, but the world seemed silent. The crowd had gone back to their routines as if nothing had happened. Jamal's legs burned, but he didn't stop. He chased the thieves through twisting streets and crowded corners, determined to get his things back. But the thieves were fast and knew the alleys better. Slowly, they disappeared out of sight. Jamal stopped and leaned against a wall, chest heaving. Tears mixed with sweat on his face. In that moment, Jamal felt something heavy settle deep in his chest, a painful mix of anger, fear, and sadness. He had never felt so small or so alone. He looked around, hoping to find help, but all he saw were faces turning away or walking past. It felt like the whole world had turned its back on him. Then, just as Jamal was about to give up hope, he noticed something strange. A shadow moved quickly above the rooftops, a figure swinging with speed and grace, like a spider spinning its web. Jamal rubbed his eyes, wondering if he was dreaming. But no, it was real. A hero was coming. and this hero was about to change everything. The street was bustling with people, families walking home from the park, shopkeepers closing their stalls, kids laughing and chasing each other. Jamal's footsteps echoed softly on the cracked sidewalk as he carried his backpack, the weight of his books and homework pressing down on his shoulder. His phone buzzed in his pocket, a reminder of the messages waiting for him from friends and family. It was a regular day, a typical afternoon, or so it seemed. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The group of white teenagers who had been loitering nearby noticed Jamal again. Their laughter grew louder and more pointed. What started as distant, mocking comments soon turned into something far more dangerous. "Hey, look at this kid, walking like he owns the place," one sneered, nudging his friend with a cruel grin. Another added, "Bet he's got something worth stealing in that backpack." Jamal's heart began to pound faster. The laughter wasn't just mean-spirited anymore. It felt like a warning. The kids were closing in on him, their eyes sharp and filled with malicious intent. "Please, just leave me alone," Jamal said quietly, hoping his calm voice might stop them. But his words fell on deaf ears. The group ignored his plea, their faces twisting with contempt. One of the teenagers, the tallest and toughest looking, suddenly lunged forward and grabbed Jamal's backpack tightly. Jamal tried to hold on, but the grip was like iron. "Give it back," he demanded, struggling to pull the bag free. The thief sneered and took off running, dragging the backpack behind him. The others followed, laughing and jeering as Jamal's belongings disappeared down the crowded street. "Hey! Someone help! Stop them!" Jamal shouted desperately. But the street was filled with people and the reaction wasn't what he expected. Eyes shifted away, shoulders turned, feet hurried past. Some people looked away because they were afraid to get involved. Others might have thought it was just a typical fight or a misunderstanding, something they didn't want to face. Jamal sprinted after the thieves, his legs pumping hard, his lungs burning for air. The thieves were bigger and faster, moving with confidence and cruelty. Every step they took seemed to push Jamal further into helplessness. He could hear their mocking laughter behind him, cruel words aimed at him like sharp knives. This was more than just a theft. It was a public display of power and hatred. The way they treated him wasn't about the backpack or the phone. It was about the color of his skin, about making him feel small and invisible. Jamal had heard racist comments before, things whispered in hallways, shouted on the streets, or passed around in jokes. But this was different. This was personal. It was cruel and violent. It was a moment where Jamal was forced to face the ugly reality that sometimes, no matter how much you try, people judge you by your skin before they see you as a person. His chest tightened with fear and frustration. Tears burned behind his eyes, but he blinked them back. He couldn't afford to cry. Not here, not now. As he chased the thieves, the crowd around him thinned. People hurried away, unwilling to witness what was happening. The thieves turned sharply into a narrow alley, shadows swallowing them as they disappeared from sight. Jamal skidded to a stop at the entrance of the alley, panting heavily. He stared down the dark passage, his backpack lost somewhere inside. His phone was gone too, the one thing that connected him to his friends and his world. For a moment, Jamal felt completely defeated, as if everything he owned, everything he was, had been ripped away. He leaned against the wall, the cold bricks pressing into his back. The pain wasn't just physical, it was deep inside, where his hopes and dreams lived. He felt small and alone in a way he never had before. Just then, his ears caught a sudden sound, a faint rustle from above, a blur of movement against the sky. Jamal looked up. At first, he thought it was his imagination, a trick of the light, or a bird flying too low. But then he saw it again, a figure, dressed in red and blue, swinging swiftly across the rooftops with incredible speed and agility. It was Spider-Man. For a split second, Jamal wondered if he was dreaming. Spider-Man was a character from his favorite comics and movies, a symbol of hope and justice. But here he was, in real life, jumping down from a rooftop and landing between Jamal and the alley where the thieves had vanished. The thieves froze, their confident sneers replaced with shock and fear. They hadn't expected anyone, especially not a hero, to stand in their way. Without a word, Spider-Man moved with lightning-fast reflexes. He whipped out his web shooters and fired sticky webs that wrapped around the thieves' legs and arms. One by one, they were caught, unable to escape. Jamal watched in amazement as the thieves struggled helplessly against the webs, their bravado gone. Spider-Man turned to Jamal and gave a reassuring nod, his voice calm but strong. "You're safe now." For the first time since the attack began, Jamal felt the heavy weight of fear begin to lift. Hope replaced the helplessness inside him. Someone was there for him, a real-life hero. People nearby had stopped to watch, their faces filled with awe and relief. Phones appeared, recording the scene. The atmosphere shifted from one of fear to one of excitement. Jamal felt tears come to his eyes, not from sadness, but from relief and gratitude. Spider-Man crouched beside him for a moment, speaking quietly. "You didn't deserve any of that. It's not your fault. Sometimes people act out of fear and hate, but you're stronger than they think." Jamal nodded, still catching his breath. The nightmare was over. For now, the police arrived shortly after, taking the tied-up thieves into custody. Jamal retrieved his backpack and phone, though some of his things had been damaged or lost. But the damage done to his heart and spirit was harder to fix. Spider-Man stayed long enough to encourage Jamal. "Remember, being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you don't give up even when you are. And heroes come in all shapes and sizes. You can be one, too." With that, Spider-Man disappeared as quickly as he had come, swinging off into the city. Jamal stood there, stunned and amazed. His life had been shaken to its core, but somehow it was different now. The pain of that terrible day was real, but so was the power of kindness and courage. From that moment forward, Jamal knew he wasn't alone. No matter how dark things got, there was always hope, sometimes even in the most unexpected places. The world seemed to slow down in those moments. After Jamal's belongings were stolen, the weight of fear and helplessness pressed heavily on him, threatening to crush any spark of hope. He stood at the entrance of the alley, panting and desperate, staring down the dark passage where the thieves had vanished. His backpack was gone. His phone was lost. And for a moment, it felt like everything was slipping away. But then, something happened that no one could have predicted, something that looked like it had come straight out of the pages of a comic book. From high above, the quiet hum of the city was broken by a sudden blur of motion, a figure swinging through the air with the grace and speed of a spider. It was Spider-Man, the famous hero who had saved countless people in stories and on screens. And here he was, in Jamal's neighborhood, right when he needed help the most. Jamal's eyes widened in disbelief. At first, he thought maybe he was imagining things. Maybe it was a trick of his tired mind or a hope so strong it was creating illusions. But no, there was no mistaking the bright red and blue suit, the white eyes on the mask, the web lines trailing behind the figure as he swung between buildings. Spider-Man landed softly in front of Jamal, his presence calm but commanding. The thieves, who had just moments before been taunting and running, froze in place. They stared up at the unexpected hero, fear and surprise written all over their faces. "Hey!" one of the thieves stammered. "Who's this guy?" Before anyone could react, Spider-Man moved. His actions were quick, almost too fast to follow. He shot webs from his wrists, sticky and strong, that wrapped around the thieves' ankles and arms like iron chains. One by one they struggled and fell, caught in the webs and unable to escape. Jamal could hardly believe what he was seeing. The confidence and cruelty of the thieves vanished in an instant. They were powerless, tangled, and trapped by a hero who had come from nowhere. Spider-Man turned to Jamal and gave him a reassuring thumbs up. "You're safe now," he said, his voice steady and kind through the mask. The crowd around them started to gather. People had stopped what they were doing to watch the incredible scene unfold. Some pulled out their phones, recording the moment. Others whispered excitedly about how a real superhero had just saved the day. Jamal's heart, which had been pounding with fear and panic, now raced with hope and awe. For the first time since the attack began, he felt the heavy weight of fear begin to lift. Spider-Man crouched beside him for a moment, speaking quietly but with power. You didn't deserve any of that. It's not your fault. Sometimes people act out of fear and hate, but you're stronger than they think. Jamal swallowed hard, still trying to catch his breath. He nodded, feeling a strange mix of relief and disbelief. A hero had come for him, and maybe that meant there was still good in the world. The police arrived soon after, alerted by the crowd and the commotion. They took the bound thieves into custody, thanking Spider-Man for his help. Jamal's backpack and phone were recovered, though some of his belongings had been damaged or stolen. But it wasn't just about the stuff. What mattered most was what Spider-Man's arrival symbolized: hope, courage, and protection. After the police had taken the thieves away, Spider-Man stayed for a few minutes to talk to Jamal. The masked hero's words were simple but powerful. "Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared," he said. "It means you don't give up even when you are scared. And heroes come in all shapes and sizes. You can be one too." Jamal looked up at the hero, feeling inspired. "How do you do it? How do you keep going when things get so bad?" Spider-Man smiled beneath his mask. "I remind myself that every small act of kindness, every time you stand up for what's right, you're making the world better. Sometimes that's more powerful than any superpower." Jamal nodded slowly. The words touched something deep inside him. The pain of what had happened wouldn't disappear overnight, but now he knew there was a way forward. Then, just as suddenly as he had arrived, Spider-Man stood up and prepared to leave. With a quick wave, he shot another web line and swung away, into the city skyline, disappearing into the horizon. Jamal watched him go, feeling changed. That day, a simple walk home had turned into a nightmare, and then a miracle. Jamal had faced fear and hate, but he had also seen courage and hope in action, and from that moment on, he knew he wasn't alone. He wasn't just a victim. He was someone who could stand tall and face the world, just like a hero. From that unforgettable day when Spider-Man swung in from nowhere, everything in Jamal's life began to change. The experience left a mark on him, not just because a superhero had saved him from danger, but because it sparked something inside him he never knew existed: courage. Before that day, Jamal often felt invisible, mocked and judged because of the color of his skin. He sometimes wondered if anyone truly saw him for who he was. But after that encounter, something shifted. He started walking with his head held a little higher. The fear that had once gripped his heart began to loosen its hold. Jamal realized that being brave doesn't mean you're never scared. It means you keep going, even when things feel impossible. It means standing up for yourself and others, even if it's hard. Inspired by the kindness and strength Spider-Man showed him, Jamal decided he wanted to help others too. He joined a local community group, a place where teens like him could come together to share their stories, feel safe, and find support. The group worked to build understanding and fight injustice, showing that no one had to face their struggles alone. In that group, Jamal found a new kind of family. He met other young people who had also faced hardships and discrimination. Together, they shared ideas, organized events, and spoke up for their rights. Jamal's confidence grew. He learned that his voice mattered, and that even small actions could make a big difference. Every time a new Spider-Man movie came out or a new comic was released, Jamal watched with a smile. Spider-Man wasn't just a character on a screen anymore. To Jamal, Spider-Man was a symbol, a reminder that heroes can come from anywhere and anyone. Heroes don't always wear masks or fight villains with superpowers. Sometimes, heroes are just people who choose to do the right thing, stand up for others, and spread kindness in their own way. Jamal's story started to spread beyond his neighborhood. People online and around the city heard about the boy who faced mockery, theft, and fear, and found courage with the help of a hero. His story inspired many, reminding everyone that no matter how hard life gets, hope and bravery can shine through. The power of Jamal's experience wasn't just in the dramatic rescue by Spider-Man. It was in how Jamal used that moment to grow stronger, to lift others up, and to become a hero in his own right. So here's the important message for you, watching this right now. If you ever feel scared or alone, if the world seems unfair or harsh, remember Jamal's story. Real heroes don't always wear costumes or swing between buildings. Real heroes live in our hearts and actions, Being a hero means standing up for what's right, even if it's just helping a friend, speaking out against injustice, or showing kindness to someone who needs it. Sometimes, heroes show up when you least expect them, just like Spider-Man did for Jamal, and sometimes that hero is you. If Jamal's story touched you, if it gave you hope or inspired you to believe in yourself, please share it with someone else who might need to hear it. Let's spread the message that courage and kindness are powerful, and together, we can make the world a better place. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more inspiring tales like Jamal's. And here's a question for you. Have you ever experienced a moment when a hero showed up unexpectedly in your life? Maybe it was a stranger helping you when you were in trouble, or a friend standing by you when things got tough. I'd love to hear your story, so please share it in the comments below.